Should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we will unpause and then repause as normal. We've got the looming end to the shutdown to talk about today because 8 Democrats in the Senate actually broke rank and are now going with the Republicans. So it'd be a 60-40 vote. This establishes that the shutdown is probably going to end with a negotiated deal. It's not the deal that people like Bernie Sanders want, which is why you know it's probably a good idea. We've got some BBC resignations, actually, which was hysterical. Tim Davie and Deborah Turnus, actually, the other day decided to resign from the BBC over something that goes beyond just selective editing. This is directly malicious. It is quite obvious if you look at the clips of the entire Trump speech on J6 versus what was presented by the BBC. It's like night and day. It's not even selective editing at that point. It's literally just slander. We've got a happy birthday for the U.S. Marine Corps. Indeed, 250 years of kicking ass. So we'll be talking about that, especially, the whole Triple E incident. Yes, foreign intervention is okay if you are being personally fucked around with by another country. Thomas Jefferson, my favorite president, seems to have understood that when they commissioned the creation of what became the U.S. Navy. The Marines came first, of course. Nuking the filibuster would come back to haunt Republicans. Nuance take time on this particular story, by the way. Transgender ex-lawmaker first in state's history pleads guilty to federal child sex abuse charges. Yes, and some of it involved, like, toddlers and stuff. There was a daycare involved with Stacey Marie Loughton, actually. And that's not good, just saying. It's in the state of New Hampshire. It's very, very intriguing, very coincidental, by the way, as well. Trump pardoned Giuliani and others. I like how, in CNN Politics, Trump pardons Rudy Giuliani, others involved in efforts to overturn 2020 election, pardon attorney says, which is ridiculous and means nothing. And then we might get to Mom Dami and how the Democratic Party has effectively capitulated to communism, because it has. It's quite clear. I've talked with more than one New Yorker that's worried about Mom Dami actually taking power. Carson, don't fuck with our boats. Exactly. Apocalypse, wow. Sticks, did you see Kimmel's wife complain about her Trump-supporting family? She says she's angry all the time and constantly sends them emails about Trump, says they don't talk to her anymore. Yeah, sometimes people get obsessed with an issue like that, and they don't even realize that they're being, like, come on, talk about something else, They don't even know sometimes. Tiger 311. Good morning, Tarl. Good morning to you as well. Jeremy, I'm going to get drunk at 2 today and watch the Quarter Pounder. I don't understand why there are some people that have a problem with Jeremy. He's always been a nice dude to me, so I just don't get it. CP Simple, they're doing construction under me. Please talk louder. Lol. You wouldn't like being in certain parts of the Netherlands. God, you see more construction cranes there than I've ever seen before anywhere in my life. It's insane. It's a big problem. So yeah, we'll get right into the news. First and foremost, of course, with the fallout from a number of Senate Democrats deciding to side with the Republicans, overriding Rand Paul, by the way, in the process. He's the sole Republican voting against this, in order to push it forward a continuance so that there will actually be a budget, which is helpful. And then negotiations on other issues, such as the ACA subsidies, things like that. Those are slated to go on later and separately. This was the deal that was reached. The Democrats blinked. Trump did not. He made it quite clear, I'm not going to sign off on any deal that, doesn't have enough support, number one, and number two, isn't palatable. So the Republican Party, against the wishes of some members of the Republican Party, was dragged kicking and screaming to actual victory in this particular case. At least a preliminary victory. You've got to understand that now, this particular bill, which has passed, goes back to the House, but first they've got to establish quorum. So they got to call all the House makers back from their lavish vacations so they can actually do their job. It's very difficult to get members of Congress to do this, regardless of whether it's House or Senate. So they're going to come back. They'll have to vote on it. The presumption is that it will pass, probably with full Republican support and possibly with some crossovers from the Democratic Party. If the Senate is any indicator, that wouldn't be unlikely. Then it goes to Trump's desk, he signs it, and, you kick the can down the road a little bit longer. This shows a fracture within the Democratic Party, though, because Bernie Sanders and Murphy from Connecticut, of course, among others, certainly, what's his name there? I can't remember his fucking name. Bernie Sanders was the one that was most, obsessed with the topic. Oh, Ro Khanna, yeah, of course. So there were a bunch of senators that are like, well, our colleagues have abandoned us. This is a terrible day for democracy. The most telling part, though, as I explained this morning, actually is buried at the bottom of the CNN article. And that was from Murphy, actually, from Connecticut. And this is what he said. This is a quote. "I didn't want this shutdown. I wanted to end, but not at any cost. This shutdown hurt. It did. But unfortunately, I don't think there is a way to save this country, to save our democracy, without there being some difficult, hard moments along the way." Laying it as bare as you can possibly lay it, with a little bit of flourish in the language, he's effectively saying, yeah, the whole goal was basically to inflict pain on the US population in hopes that they would cause the Trump administration to crack so that they could pass through our massive amounts of spending and all the other shit that we pumped into the budget. He's telling everybody, he's being very honest. Wow, we found an honest Democrat. He's openly proclaiming that pain is going to be required if you're going to push your agenda. Now, they can frame it as saving democracy, saving America, stopping tyranny, whatever they want to frame it as. Think of the children, basically, comes to mind. But it's really just about causing pain to people in order to get their way. It's the Schumer shutdown. It's Schumer's temper tantrum more than anything else. Some Democrats are intelligent enough to realize this is not a good idea. And, many of them seeking re-election, they don't want to be tarred and feathered, so to speak, so they've decided to vote in favor of it anyway. And the assumption is, so it goes through the Senate, now it goes to the House. There's no certainty that they pass it, and don't underestimate the Republicans' ability to take a big gift and then, throw it on the ground petulantly, because they've done this before. But overall, it's likely the House passes it. It's likely that we get a continuance, therefore. Likely, not certain. We'll put it that way. Sigil, did you see my DM? Rand Paul voted against the Senate funding bill again. Only Republican to do so again. Come to the light. Join us in hating Rand Paul. He fucking sucks. He has principles, but that being said, he doesn't appear to be exhibiting any pragmatism at the moment. It makes no sense. Normally, he's one of the more pragmatic members of Congress, too. Frozen Freddy. Thoughts on $2,000 tariff checks Trump has promised? Well, I mean, if the country has made a shit ton of money off of tariffs, giving a rebate to the people that actually made that possible does make sense. I'm assuming it'd be scaled for income and stuff like that. Occult Priestess, the lighting is on point today. Yes, indeed. Apocalypse Wow, story on the Blaze allegedly IDing J6 pipe bomber. I did see that actually mentioned, but it's not newsworthy until we get more confirmation. It does look like a possible match, but then again, for every person in the world, there are dozens of other people who look basically like them. Like, I saw somebody who looked almost exactly like me at a bowling alley once. I was like, at first I thought I was looking in a mirror. This can, by the way, be a problem in criminal investigations. Sean, American Rebel, Sticks, I've been watching your videos on depression and whatnot. They have helped me. Thanks, Brotherius. You're very welcome. Yeah. Young Tiger, can you imagine going bowling and two Stickses show up? Yeah, kid looked almost, he was about the same height. had almost the same style of glasses. Phenotypically looked almost exactly like me, except that he didn't have, the beardy thing going on. Collaborative data accounts. Oh, bullshit. The policewoman is guilty. Maybe so, but we need more corroboration in order to establish that. I don't like to presume guilt, because, for reasons. Sigil Stone. Rand Paul's principles are uphold the globalist world order at all costs so he can grift more off retard lowberts that can't see through his shtick and vote libertarian no matter who or how bad. Yeah, but the problem is the Libertarian Party has not yet found its footing enough to become viable. And so it's sort of a take what you can get moment, so to speak. I would say that Rand Paul has mostly classical liberal views. That being said, sometimes I disagree with him, but that's the case with any politician. The only person in the world who you will never disagree with is yourself, and sometimes you probably should disagree with yourself, Well, because, hello, Sticks, sex me, please. Yeah, no, I only do girls. Anyways, let's get to our sponsors really quick before we get to the rest of the news. We do have a packed news day today. I might go a little bit long, actually, honestly. First and foremost, though, we've got cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Yes, they will increase your health. They will increase your energy. They are good for you. And at this point, I'm usually taking 2 of these every day. Usually take 1 of these right on the live stream. There's a reason for that. I need the energy. And trust me, it helps. Also, we've got Doggy Dose, which I always call Doggo Dose, so that 4-legged friend in your life can also munch down the snack. Still no word on whether cats would or could eat it. I'm assuming the answer is probably yes. Some good stuff. Take it every day. We've got BiltongUSA.com. Anytime we mention that, of course, it's Bovrite time. Anton has imports. He has meats. He has Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available as well. Get you some of that Wagyu. Put it in a soup. Just trust me. Thank me later. You can do that. Or you can get some of like the Cabanassi, the Angus sticks and stuff like that. Yeah, sticks. Put them in a sachet. Take them out hunting or hiking or whatever you're doing. It's good outdoorsman food. And Anton does it best. Based in Texas, so you know that it's good. And finally, jamandbean.com. Raise a glass of tea to Jam and Bean. Whether you want caffeine-free or caffeinated, he's got you covered. And you can always get Clank Blend coffee. I've got a bunch of teas over there, actually, because I've got a few that are still left. I need a resupply of that Yunnan jig, though. It is important. So yeah, those are our sponsors. Tea and coffee, all sorts of meats and other imported goods, and various neuroceuticals, I believe they're called. That's what I'm talking about. Sigil, the LP has had decades to get it together and hasn't. They're cooked. Shit, they're charbroiled. The libertarian ideology hasn't found a way to be palatable with the schizophrenia on borders and shit. Yeah, there are some problems with the Libertarian Party's basic platform, dating back long before Gary Johnson and Aleppo, by the way. It predates that. The Libertarian Party is basically good in principle, but incapable of actually formulating like a political battle plan, if that makes sense. Apocalypse, wow, I've been noticing a lot of drama amongst the Open Borders Cato Institute Libertarians, Mises Libertarians, Dave Smith Libertarians, etc. What's the deal? It's called when you create a broad tent party and pull in people of multiple fairly hardened ideologies, it's hard to actually coordinate them. The Democrats and Republicans both have this same problem. It's just that they've got so much money and so much preeminent clout that they manage to make it work. Like the Democratic neoliberal core has to deal with people on the far left. They don't really want to have to deal with them, but they need the votes. People in the Republican Party, well, the Uniparty at this point has been smashed to pieces. I would say that MAGA basically rules the Republican Party at this point. But the old neocon unipart, like the Mike Pences, Mitch McConnells, Mitt Romneys, these people don't play nice with others because all they want is money and war. And that's really the only thing that they stand for. Same thing, by the way, with regards to most neoliberal movements. Adam Simon, Lion's Mane for the win. Yeah, I think, does this one have Lion's Mane in it? This one doesn't have the Lion's Mane. I think that's the brain, too. This is Radiant Energy. Cordyceps, Rishi, and Shaga. All very good for you. I actually had some mushroom soup last night. I got some of those instant Japanese soups, and you literally just run really hot water from the faucet into a cup and then put a couple of blocks of the soup in it, and it's perfect. It works. Tim Hayes, Mitt Romney has to retire soon. He is not seeking re-election, thankfully. Yeah, everyone in the country breathed a sigh of relief. It does not matter. This is a unifying moment. Republicans hate Mitt Romney. Democrats hate Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney probably hates Mitt Romney. Just saying. Sean, yeah, apparently the local job lots has crates of MREs for only like $30, so I'm going to be grabbing one or two of them, actually. Not for survival food. I can do that myself. Just because I want to be able to eat them because they're tasty, actually. Yeah, Cygnus. Hey Styx, it has been purported that you live in the attic of your parents' house with an owl named Stolas. Is this true? No, I live in my bedroom with an owl named Stolas. Carson, my friends who do EMT were scared that the shutdown would lead to them being homeless. They aren't politically active, yet they blamed the demo shits. They may lose even more in midterms. Well, people should be blaming the Democrats. This was Schumer having a temper tantrum and trying to get big balls and trying to tell evil orange man he's in charge. Which he's not, because he wasn't even in charge of his own life. Well, Nancy Pelosi was in there as House Speaker. Chuck Schumer always, he hunched over. He had the closed body language thing whenever he was around Pelosi. He's a spanked bitch, basically. He's basically like a bitch that got, spanked. He peed on the floor, and so he got kicked across the room like the dog that he is by Nancy Pelosi. It was pretty funny, actually. I'm going to miss Nancy Pelosi being in Congress for that reason. Just saying. Yes, BBC has purged Tim Davey and Deborah Turnus because they decided to completely misrepresent J6 footage. This is back in the day. By selective editing. And by selective editing, I mean totally selective editing. I don't mean, hey, you edited out a sentence. Okay, well, that can be malevolent too, but it's a sentence. In this case, though, they jump from one period in his speech to another period in his speech that comes, 11 minutes later or something, splice it together as though it was continuous. Even though there's an obvious jump in it, people were sharing this out and saying, look, Trump is calling for violence. He says, I'll follow you, and then he says, fight like hell. Oh my God! Quite clearly, he was responsible for what happened on J6. Trump, meanwhile, in reality world, said, look, I'm with you. Yeah, we're a political movement. We're going to peacefully gather. We're going to peacefully march up past the Capitol. No violence allowed. Be peaceful. Everything's fine. And then he left. And the fight like hell thing, I would note, if saying fight like hell was a rallying cry to violence, then Maxine Waters should be in solitary confinement right now. So should Nancy Pelosi. So should numerous pundits in the liberal legacy media. That's not fighting words. Saying fight like hell, well, you can fight like hell against cancer. Well, clearly, you're not causing any violence. You're fighting like hell for your life. And that was basically the intonation. Fight like hell for the country. Protest, march, rally, get together, organize. That was what clearly he was saying. But if you watched the BBC clip, it was totally different. And it reminded me, actually, of that particular incident. You remember with the kids, what was the name of that fucking school? With Nick Sandman, I believe it was. Nick Sandman is standing there, and a bunch of Native American, so-called, people come up and they're banging their drums and talking and stuff. And the kids in the background are doing like, a war whoop because it's part of their sports team or some shit like that. And if you looked at the heavily edited, heavily redacted footage, it looks like Sandman is being smug, hates Native Americans, and the other people behind him, they're all a bunch of white nationalists. The real story was totally different, which is that the black Hebrew Israelis had already been heckling both Sandman and the other kids there, as well as the Native Americans. And so they came up and they were doing the thing, and they were dancing around because it's part of their like sports team, I guess, or something like that. And it was quite clear. Sandman and his friends never approached anyone. They were literally just standing there. They started, dancing along with the fucking music. And then there was an instance in which one of the Native American revelers said something like, "Why don't you go back to Europe?" or something like that. Meanwhile, the black Hebrew Israelis, you can faintly hear them in the background still haranguing. But you never got any of those clips or shots from the legacy media. This is why Sandman now is quite wealthy, because of multiple defamation suits. Happened several times. I think Bloomberg, I believe CBS, if I remember correctly, along with a couple of others, actually. Cooking Inferno and the Spooky Adventures of Sabrina, there is a raven named Stolas. Shows a solid B+. I especially like the dark bent that it takes. Sounds fun to me. Yeah, Sandman, I mean, we don't know exactly what the settlement was for, but it's at least well within the 6-figure range. Probably within the 7-figure range. They were like, oh shit, we literally just committed libel and defamation. Now, that was funny. Davey announced he was resigning as Director General of the British broadcaster. Yeah. Turnus, who announced she was stepping down at the same time as Davey, said, "The ongoing controversy around the panorama on President Trump has reached a stage where it is causing damage to the BBC, an institution that I love." Yeah, which, in other words, it means the people higher up than you and the investors were ringing your phone off the fucking hook, and they told you, get lost. Because you really messed up here. You expected Trump to lose. That's why you felt that it was perfectly fine to do what you did. But then he won. And now you got a big goddamn ass problem now, don't you? Funny Kitty at Funny Kitty 22. Cool. Copium Poppies. The candy corn was delicious, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm not going to eat it, that's for sure. Can't stomach it. I've got a cast iron stomach, but candy corn? No, thank you. I'll have to forsake that one. CZO, SCOTUS won't overturn gay marriage. Good. Yeah, there was never really a big possibility they would even bother. Did they decide that they weren't even going to revisit Obergefell? Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Is the owl at Bohemian Grove the same as Stolas? No, that's their idea of a weird joke. As Nixon put it, it was basically a bunch of dudes that were being gay. He used a different term, but I can't use that on a YouTube video, that wanted to piss behind trees. I can imagine it must get bored when you're in the corporate boardroom or in penthouses all the time. Like, sometimes you just want to cut loose, but Nixon had a problem with it. I think he was a man of better taste than them. Copium Poppies. That's rude. The candy corn was a gift. Well, yeah, but I mean, the gift would give me bulimia, so. You troll. Apocalypse Wow. CBS settled with Trump because they didn't want it to come out that Harris' campaign told him to sanitize her 60 Minutes interview about Israel. They multiple times sanitized Kamala Harris, and not just on CBS. This happened, I think, on 3 or 4 different occasions, actually. Which is like, if you're not even capable of giving an interview, how are you going to give a debate? That should have been their question to her, but that would have been sanitized too. By the way, Semper Fi. Today is the Marine Corps' birthday. You should watch Full Metal Jacket in remembrance of this. It is the 250th birthday of the oldest arm of the armed services in the United States. Originally, our country merely had a militia that could be called up. Now, some of these people were professionally trained, but mostly it was farmers and things like that. The realization dawned on the early United States that it might be good to have a naval presence, though, because our people were being oppressed by certain North African countries. And so when you see from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, Tripoli in Tunisia, that was at the time part of effectively an Arab client state, a North African sort of, what they would call a Barbary state. And they engaged in, shanghaiing people from U.S. flagged vessels and stuff like that, making trade hard. To keep the trade lanes open was literally the first military endeavor after the Revolutionary War. This was under Thomas Jefferson, so this is ancient history at this point. And so the Marines were formed, because, you've got to have people to actually utilize those ships. The U.S. Navy didn't even exist at the time. The U.S. Navy comes later. And it's like, okay, we're going to parse these apart. The Navy will take care of the ships. The Marines will help guard them, guard the ports, and guard the ships and stuff like that. But the U.S. Navy actually comes later. Now, the U.S. Marines were quite literally the first. And you don't want to fuck around with them. If I had to choose, imagine there's the zombie apocalypse. You can choose a soldier to help defend you against the zombies. Well, yeah, I'm choosing a U.S. Marine. Yeah. Probably end up eating the zombies. This is way better than the mess hall food, Sigil Stone, Nixon called Bohemian Grove F-words. I'm not allowed to say it on a YouTube live stream. My apologies. And then got forced out by scandal. Total coincidence, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Inland Surfer cracked about your rant of Anthony Weiner. Notice his ex-wife immediately married Alex Soros. Huma Abedin is going to be around for a while. Technically, she could become president. Uma. You mean Huma Abedin, who had to suck Hillary Clinton's rotten clitoris? Yeah. Copium. Anyway, check your DMs. Sent you a question along with some screenshots directly after some info you should keep in mind with the interface I sent so you don't potentially damage it. Thank you for that. Funny Kitty, democracy doesn't work. People just vote for free stuff. Everyone will vote for $1 million and bankrupt the system. Yeah, that's why direct democracy is a scam. Cooking Inferno, Sticks, you should watch Late Night with the Devil. Surprisingly good film, especially if you've ever watched late night talk shows. Sounds good. You should watch The Great Satan at Large, especially the Israel 666 episode. I've got them loaded over on Rumble. I don't know if they're still on YouTube. I think someone else did upload them, though. But yeah, you should watch the U.S. Marine Hell March if you want to see something that's pretty impressive. As long as the Marines exist, I'm not really worried about foreign invasion. Let's put it that way. Between the Marines and the militia, I think that we can probably handle it. Well, 100 million irregulars plus, tens of thousands of dudes who are trained to crack walnuts with their teeth and survive on crayons, probably will work. My dad was a Marine. Well, still is, technically. You're a Marine for life. He actually became a sergeant in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War. Can you, you look at the training these dudes go through. Yeah. That would be difficult. Thing about the Marines, unlike every other branch, like in the Army, if you're doing a good job, you're not going to get hassled too much. In the Marines, it's partially psyops, and so you will get hassled. You're the biggest, brawniest, most agile, able sharpshooter, most organized, perfect bed, everything else, you never do anything wrong. Yeah, you're still going to catch shit, because that's the whole point. The whole point is to break you down psychologically, to cement you in as part of effectively what amounts to the Marine Brotherhood. This is different from most fighting forces in the world. Most of the time it's training like, here's how to administer medicine, here's how to fire the rifle and stuff like that. And so if you're doing a good job, you won't get shit. You don't talk back to the commanding officer, you eat your food and shit like that, you make your bed, you fire the gun right, and you can carry the pack, no problems. With the Marines, you got a problem on day one. FB 3490. Marine ear necklaces in country. Yeah, it would be funny. There probably are still literal ear necklaces that were taken by forces in Vietnam, among other branches as well. Sigil. The United States only has two branches for the military, Army and Navy. The Air Force is a corporation and the Marines are a cult. Well, the Marines are effectively the proto-Navy more than anything else. And if they're a cult, well, they're an effective one. That's cool. If I was president of the United States, one of the first things that I would do is get a platoon of good Marines to defend me in place of the Secret Service. They don't even need weapons. They'll just use their bare hands, you know? Because they're nuts. All of the stories my dad told. Nuts. Fucking crazy. But that's what you want in war. You want people that are insane. Mr. Wonderful, the extreme left-wing government of Victoria, Australia, signed a treaty with the natives 2 weeks ago. Today, that community just lodged a land title claim over Melbourne, the country's second largest city. Who would have guessed? Give them Melbourne. Let the Australian government suffer as much as the people who voted it in. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage, Senator Angus King, standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. It actually gave him more power. Yeah, and the thing is, they will reject his message. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand what he's saying. What he's saying is, hey, you know, it's possible to stop this dude, but you're doing it the wrong way. They're going to read it as, oh, I love Donald Trump, Orange Man good. And so they will castigate him for that. Figs, have you ever read the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Yes. Different from the movies, but I would say Peter Jackson's movies, they do the books justice. So too did the older one with Ralph Bakshi. Technically, it was more actually related to the book's proceedings than Peter Jackson's films. And that iconic scene with the ring wraith leering over into the tree stumps while the hobbits are gathered there, that was Bakshi's creation. The most iconic scene from the first Lord of the Rings film was actually not made by Peter Jackson at all. It was directly copied from Bakshi. It wasn't Jackson that did it. And Bakshi actually complained about this afterwards and said, well, nobody even sent me like some flowers and a bottle of wine. You know, because he basically invented that iconic scene. And then finally Peter Jackson said, yeah, we can kind of adapt. Congratulations, he had a really good scene there. Thankfully, Peter Jackson is being consulted for the Finding Gollum movie that they're now producing. I don't know when that's going to be out. Because before they had some other dude for the Hobbit trilogy, right? And I'm not like a super fan of the Lord of the Rings canon or anything like that. Like I've gotten as far as reading the Silmarillion, let's put it that way. But I'm not nerding out over it. But the Hobbit trilogy, the reason why it feels disjointed and the pacing is off and some things in it don't make sense is because the first producer / director quit. Gurmos, I believe it was. And then Peter Jackson stepped in. They finally said, well, maybe the dude that made the Lord of the Rings trilogy can make this trilogy too. And Jackson, I can imagine, when he looked at the footage and when he looked at the script and when he looked at the storyline, he was like, God, I'm going to have to pull a bunch of all-nighters, aren't I? He must have been knuckling his brow at that point. Because what originally should have really been a 2-part movie became a trilogy. He had to stretch it out because that was what he was supposed to do. And so there's a bunch of filler material in there that doesn't really make any sense. The first movie, therefore, is pretty polished. It's pretty good. I think they should have truncated parts of the first movie because some of it doesn't need to be in there. And then they should have tacked on the first part of the second movie onto the first, all the way until they go into the woods, into Mirkwood. And they should have had a shot right at the end. This would have been perfect cinematically, where you have creepy music in the background and it shows the dwarves and Bilbo heading into the forest, and it just goes up and back and shows them slowly filtering into the forest with the Lonely Mountain in the background. You cut out all the Tariel bullshit, although I do like the actress, and she's cute. But it wasn't really necessary. You cut that out, and then you immediately continue. They go through Mirkwood. The elves get them. They manage to escape. You didn't need that very, very prolonged escape scene, by the way. And then, they end up in Lake Town. And some of that is canonical and some of it's not. And then they go on to defeat Smaug. The final battle didn't need to be an entire movie. Because the third movie is basically nothing but a battle. Now, cinematically speaking, parts of it were really good, but it dragged on and fucking on. It's 2 hours of nonstop combat with random cutaways to things that are, yeah, in the book, but really, for the cinematic experience, didn't even make sense. Just saying. I did like the scene with the fir trees, though. They did that well, with Gandalf, lighting the pine cones on fire and shit. Cooking Inferno, I have many Marine friends, and they have all told me that the Royal Marines are scary motherfuckers. Our Marines and Royal Marines often exchange trainers for certain aspects of training. Yeah, exactly. Sigil, I read a story on X the other day about joint military exercises. The Marines DI bitched out some Air Force guys for their barracks floor not being polished. When he came back, the floor was carpeted. King of Biltong has arrived. Hello, Anton. That means we get extra Bovrite. Yeah. Always a good decision. He may think it's too salty. I think it's just right. The irony being there's almost no salt actually in it. I don't know. I don't know much about yeast extract. I just know that it's tasty. Alright, next. Nuking the filibuster would come back to haunt Republicans. This is a double-edged sword argument, as I've explained. If you get rid of the filibuster, yeah, you can pass things more easily. Then you have to try to restore the filibuster, having made a precedent for removing it out of expedience anyway. Or you can leave it in place. Then you have a strangulated government. So it's basically damned if you do, damned if you don't. I do believe that some Democrats in the Senate are actually optioning the concept of removing the filibuster for appropriations purposes. I've tried to look into this. I can't get any solid info. Maybe somebody can tell me in chat. Is this idea that they have, is this just for fiscal appropriation, or is it a blanket end to the filibuster? Because the former would make pragmatic sense under the circumstances, and that's a genie you can actually put back in the bottle. But the latter, I think that it would remain, and then, you get a future Democratic administration, imagine what they'll do. King of Biltong, yes, indeed, I did. That's why I've got extra Bovrite. I can always use more of that, along with all the other weird stuff that you have for sale, Anton. Like this pineapple jam that I've got beside me is really good. JDL, Sticks, the Edmund Fitzgerald sank 50 years ago today. Oh, interesting. I'll have to listen to the radio traffic, actually, from the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking. There's all sorts of radio chatter that they recorded at the time that was pertinent to it, with other ships actually attempting to search for them. It's fascinating history when you think about it. It's also creepy. They're still not exactly sure what sunk it. I have a feeling that it had to do with a rogue wave. I believe in the mainstream theory on that one. Basically, multiple waves happened to converge at the same time, creating a sort of super wave, and it pretty much just knocked them on their ass. Pre-59 Cuban, has a filibuster ever worked? Yes, actually. They managed to filibuster the NSA spy ring funding. Actually, there was Rand Paul and Ted Cruz mainly leading that. And Cruz cucked at the last moment, and Rand was pissed about this, because they were warrantlessly spying on American citizens, and it got out of hand after Snowden's revelations mainly. And in the end, they decided, well, you can still gather the data, but third parties have to actually store it. The government's not allowed to do that on its own. And that was sort of the band-aid on a gaping wound. But the filibuster still technically did work. There was reform. It's just not the reform that some of us that are more puristic about the Fourth Amendment actually wanted. Sigil, imagine what the Democrats would do. We don't have to imagine, dude. We lived through Obama and Biden. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole problem. We already know if the Democrats get back into power what machinations they have in mind. They want to load the Supreme Court with more justices. They're openly proclaiming this, so I am just going to take them at their word. And definitely, pile on more fodder onto the fire of inflation. That much is certainly something in their purview that they want to do. We already know what they're going to do, which is why people need to come out and vote against them. You don't have to vote in favor of another political party. Hell, half the Republicans are ineffectual cucks anyway. But voting against, the unipartyist left agenda sort of makes sense, Now people are debating over the best branch of the U.S. military and or foreign militaries. There are plenty of good soldiers in the world. Look at the Spetsnaz, for example. Yeah, FB, look up Edmund Fitzgerald radio broadcast or something like that. Yeah, there was this one captain, I can't remember his name, and he was holding discourse with people, back on the land through the whole period of time sporadically. And there was a huge storm actually that blew up, and they asked him to please go out and help. And he's like, oh, I don't know if I can do this because the water was so rough. He was worried his own ship would sink. Sigil, so you're saying there was a wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Someone should write a story about that. Wonder what they would call it. Well, there's a good song. Cooking Inferno. How, with all the packing, the court bullshit, has there never been an amendment proffered to enshrine 9 as the limit? I personally would support that. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. But keep in mind, Congress would have to have intelligence and tact and some degree of sobriety in order to pass such an amendment. That'll be difficult. Very difficult. Opinionated Junkie. Should Supreme Court be nutteried? I don't know what you mean by nutteried. You mean nullified or neutered? I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry. Oh, means neutered. There's no need to do that. I would rather neuter some of the federal courts and state supreme courts, honestly. Like, for instance, here in the state of Vermont, you have limits on guns that are clearly unconstitutional under the state's constitution, let alone the Second Amendment. But the state Supreme Court sided with, gun control, anti-gunnery anyway. And the state Supreme Courts and the federal courts should be neutered more. Things should move slower at the lower level. I'd trust the Supreme Court more than I would trust my own state Supreme Court. Transgender ex-lawmaker, first in state's history, pleads guilty to federal child sex abuse charges. Federal charges stem from 2022 scheme. Took you a while. It doesn't appear to be 2022 at the moment. Court systems are very slow. Involving nude photos of children under the age of 5. Stacey Marie Loughton, a former New Hampshire lawmaker who is believed to be the first elected openly transgendered lawmaker in U.S. history, recently pleaded guilty to child sex abuse charges in federal court. What a surprise. I wish I could say that I was surprised. It'd be a better world. According to WMUR, the 41-year-old ex-politician recently entered... I'm going to use the proper pronouns, which is his. There's no her here. Plea in a Boston federal courtroom. The charges included sexual exploitation of children involving child sex abuse materials. Loughton, who authorities identify using feminine pronouns, is accused of working with his ex-girlfriend, Lindsay Groves, who might also be trans, I have no clue, to exploit children at a daycare center called Creative Minds in Tyngsboro, Massachusetts. Groves, a former employee of the daycare center, took nude photographs of children and sent them to Loughton in 2022, while Loughton served as a member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. Wonderful, yeah. First openly trans person in the state Congress, and turns out that they're a kitty diddler. Working at a daycare, by the way. According to an affidavit filed that year, authorities said that Groves took 4 photos of children under the age of 5. Per the filing, Loughton and Groves exchanged thousands of text messages around the time the images were sent. In the messages, Loughton expressed interest in having sex with the children, according to investigators. When Loughton was elected as a state representative in 2012, he was considered to be the first openly transgender person elected to state legislature. He was also the first one in New Hampshire's history. This is a pervert. This is a dude. This is not, you're not supposed to do things with babies and toddlers. Believe it or not, most cultures, at least the civilized ones, have rules, or at the very least cultural mores against it. There's probably a reason for that. Sigil, what we really should do with the Supreme Court is smack their peepees and remind them they don't have the power to decide what is or is not constitutional, and they can't invent powers for themselves. The latter is true, however, construing constitutionality is their primary objective, actually. Yeah, I find it odd. It's interesting that this would happen with the first so-called transgendered individual in state Congress. What a coincidence. Taco woman Sandy Ravage. Eric Swalwell had endorsed Stacey Loughton. Oh, I'm not surprised. Swallowwell, the fart man who likes to bang Chinese spies. That's not confusing at all. It's not a surprise in any way. Funny kitty. The next Democratic president will probably try to ban the military because they'll say it's a backwards tool of nationalism and hateful. Because they use guns, then we'll get taken over. No, I don't think so. They're more likely to expand it and then try to turn the guns on the population. So yeah, that's what a wonderful story. And this was overlooked, I'm sure, by people in this dude's inner circle because they didn't want to be called transphobic. I have a feeling that actually happens on more of a regular basis than you would like to think. Admiral Snackbar. Sotomayor literally said she doesn't understand the 10th Amendment. She should step down in shame. Yeah, I mean, the Constitution doesn't really require a lot of interpretation anyway. Application? Yes. Interpretation? No. It's in plain language for a reason. For example, the people have the right to keep and bear arms. It couldn't get more straightforward. There's no exception that's made there, unless a person is a criminal lunatic or currently incarcerated in the prison or the asylum, and they're of the age of majority and they're not nuts, then yeah, they should be able to own whatever guns they want. Ah, tea. Can't get enough of it. Sigil, gay, nonce. Name a more iconic duo. Yeah. Well, it's not clear whether these were little boys or little girls that were being targeted, and I personally don't want to know. Copium poppies, false. My rights are not up for interpretation or a vote. Fuck the courts. Yeah, mostly I think courts should err on the side of individual liberty. I mean, that's sort of the founding goal of the nation. King of Biltong! Did you know we also specialize in imported foods and candies? Check out Biltong USA for a great selection of imported food and, of course, Biltong. www.biltongusa.com. Code STICKS for 10% off Biltong. You should get Biltong. It is a good idea. Turtles Toy Box. No, it has nothing to do with like or dislike. It has to do with the fact that I don't care if consenting adults dress up, in the other attire and fuck anyone, whoever they want. I don't care about that. When kids get involved, that's different. And I think that most sane, reasonable people, rational individuals would agree. Trump has pardoned Rudy Giuliani, as well as Meadows and Sidney Powell and dozens of other people. And I support this. Here's why. This only takes the federal system off the table, by the way. Giuliani, Meadows, and others could still get hit by state charges. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were, because the persecution does continue. But at the federal level, at least, Trump has given them a pardon, a reprieve from having to deal with any further bullshit. The government under the Biden administration was very, very fond of raiding people in the dead of night for absolutely no reason. Some MAGA fans are actually sad that Trump's not returning the favor at the moment. What I pointed out this morning is that would be not a practical idea. It's better to go along with the much slower process that in the end probably convicts them anyway, while maintaining that composure, maintaining the decorum. The reason why is because, the federal government, you got limitless, inexhaustible resources anyway, because you can always just print more money. So why bother fast walking it when you can slow walk it and really make these people grill? And the reason why those cases existed in the first place is lawfare. The idea is that you launch a lawsuit against a person in hopes that eventually, through attrition, you grind them down to the point where they can no longer defend themselves adequately. And they attempted to do this with Giuliani. They certainly attempted it with Sidney Powell, and with multiple other individuals. They also did this with the J6ers. Put you in a gulag, you're in solitary for the indefinite future. By the way, if you just apologize and write a note saying why Orange Man is bad, we can probably get you a plea deal. And certain people took that fucking plea deal. Others decided not to. They've been pardoned now, by and large, which is good. That's exactly what happened. As I explained, the whole goal was not even necessarily to find people guilty. It was just Orange Man bad, Donald Trump administration bad, MAGA ideology bad. Oh, by the way, and you're bad too, so now you have to apologize. It's a struggle session. It's literally what you'd get from communist China or North Korea or Nazi Germany or something like that. It's exactly the same thing. But for some reason, because of the hyper-partisan political climate right now, people didn't get the memo. BW, do you think Trump missed opportunity with the filibuster? Also, do you think those checks HSA will help midterms? I think that they will, yes. As far as missing an opportunity, no. I think that he missed an opportunity with the SNAP benefits, though. Forgivable, but it was a big missed opportunity, admittedly. Cooking Inferno, Sigil Stone, but the court has a long history of expanding its power. The Jay and Marshall courts established them as the arbiters of constitutionality, and each court makes it more co-equal branch. Sigil, SCOTUS didn't have the power of judicial review, deciding constitutionality until 1958 or so, when they decided to give themselves that power. They can go back to not having it. It worked for 100 years. Again, depends on the situation. And it's, again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't have a constitutional arbiter, then you can end up with unconstitutional laws standing. If you do, then you can end up with constitutional laws being passed through and enshrined. So, yeah. Copium Poppies. Styx is evil. He got me hooked on V8. Also, so-called spicy V8 isn't even spicy. No, it's just disgusting. By the way, ham and sharp cheddar quesadillas go really well with V8, like grilled cheese and tomato soup. That would work. No, I don't like the spicy V8. If I want spicy V8, I'll buy V8 and I'll put the spice in it myself. That's the way to do it. Ethereal Duelist, what do you think about Trump's $2,000 tariff check idea? Probably a good idea, actually, considering Bidenomics has raised the price of literally everything under the sun. Yeah, so showing some largesse might be a good idea. Reflections on the Democrat embrace of Mamdani. Yes, indeed. This is from, where is this from? John Cass News, actually. This is an interesting piece, actually. I didn't get to read the entire thing, admittedly. Like, I do have limited time in the day. Mostly I try to read the whole article. Sometimes I have to skim or something like that, because, I mean, I'm only one person. But the idea, of course, is that the Democratic Party has effectively become the party of Mamdani. This is the face of the new Democratic Party. Young and coherent? Yeah, I mean, that's an improvement over maybe Nancy Pelosi or something like that. But also engaged in communism. There's no such thing as socialism. It is communism. Socialism is merely the communism light stepping stone version of it. And Mamdani is also incoherent. I mean, he's coherent when he's speaking, but his ideology is incoherent. Now he's rambling about trying to seize rental properties and fix the rental prices. So, fixing the rental prices, seizing property, and creating government-run grocery stores. What does this remind anyone of? What now defunct nation resorted to such measures? Let's see. I mean, you do have it in Venezuela. They still exist. Oh, that's right, the Soviet Union. It worked so well that when Gorbachev came over and was going to a U.S. grocery store, he was almost moved to tears because he saw how much variety of food was available. If anything, things have gotten a little bit too much in that direction, a little bit too decadent. Copium poppies. Nah, spicy V8 is still good, just not spicy. I added hot sauce to make it spicy. The same stuff I sent you that bottle of with the merch. Try it. It's really good. I would put the sauce in regular V8 and spice it up myself. By the way, I have used V8 in cooking before. You can use that in lieu of tomato sauce, actually, as long as you're willing to cook it a little longer because it's, less thick. Yeah, you can add that to all sorts of things. You can make a competent tomato soup and use V8 as an additive. BW, think of what he could have, could have rammed through if he lost Filibuster, then put it back. Imagine the tears. Yeah, the problem is that then a future incarnation of government could do the same thing, undo everything that he did, destabilizing things further. Originally, the Senate was not even elected by popular vote, by the way, in the United States. Originally, it was elected by state legislatures, specifically state houses. It was meant to be slow. It was meant to operate with somberness and decorum. It was meant to be different from the House of Representatives. The founders realized the House of Representatives is going to be basically like a fucking college fraternity, because people are going to be vying to represent simply the wishes of the people in their district. With the Senate, there was meant to be more solemnity, so to speak, and you only get 2 per state. They were meant to be sort of the equivalent of the House of Lords in Britain, and so they were not meant to fast-track things. The fact that things get bogged down in the Senate is actually by design. It's just when certain things get bogged down in certain ways and to a certain extent, some action eventually has to be taken. Mr. Wonderful, when does Trump just cut off all federal funding to New York and Cal, and will people care? He would get injuncted on day one, so that'll never happen, sadly. Does it deserve to happen? Yes. Will it happen? No. And it won't be because Trump wouldn't find it hilarious to do so, it'll be because the courts will step in. The courts have become a little bit of a problem. Copium poppies. The hot sauce would work in regular V8 as well. Spicy V8 is basically the same shit with a little black pepper added based on what I can tell from the taste. Either way, try it. It adds a smoky flavor. Yeah, see, I don't like black pepper, though. That's the problem. Cooking Inferno. Don't sell the Foinder short sticks. Originally, only white male landowners could vote. I think you mean founders. Yes, and until the 1960s, the only people that tended to be able to immigrate to the United States were broadly European. I mean, unless they came to work like, people on the railroad from China and the West Coast and stuff like that. But they weren't considered full citizens for a very long time. Hell, everyone got harassed. Spider Eternal. Olympics bans trans athletes from female competition. Shocking. Unbelievable. I can't fathom the sexes are different. Exactly. That's good. I'll have to look that up. Yep, as of a few hours ago. Good. I like how they say transgender women. No, you mean men that are taking hormones. I don't have to dislike people who are transgendered. I have no problem whatsoever. But women should be able to have their own spaces in accordance with basic understanding of biology. It's pretty straightforward. I don't consider this discriminatory. Edgy wedgy. Net and Yahoo for president. Yeah, like let's say that I get my cock cut off and I get it inverted and stuff. This does not make me a woman. I've got a Y chromosome. I can shoot up as much estrogen as I want. Maybe I use a double dose and I have like big, double D tits and everything else. My beard goes away and all of a sudden I'm a maiden or something. That doesn't make me a woman. It makes me a man who's taking hormones and had surgery. It's retarded, dude. Inverted penis. Obsidian. What the fuck? Yeah, no, I mean, I don't judge people. If let's say that somebody has dysphoria, I don't care. Take your hormones, get the surgery, whatever. You're an adult. It's your choice. I don't care if you want to have your ears docked. I don't care if you want to have one of your legs artificially amputated for no reason. You're an adult. Can you pay for it? Yeah, well, that's perfectly fine. I just don't want to involve children. And I don't think that we need, as a society, to be normalizing such behavior because it's not normal. It's part of a mental illness. And there are people that are engaging in this behavior that are not mentally ill. They're being coerced by, in some cases, by, mothers with various mental illnesses themselves, mostly mothers, sometimes fathers, or by other people around them. Or they feel like, hey, I'm a white straight male. I'm being discriminated against. I can never be part of a group. I can't even say what I want to say because, people will say that I'm just being racist and sexist or something. Why don't I transgender myself? I think that there's actually a level of peer pressure involved with some of these particular cases. Taco woman Sandy Ravage. Hope South Carolina rules against race gerrymandering. We'll see what happens with that one. By the way, the Pats won and the Bills lost. The Buffalo Bills managed to lose against the fucking Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge football fan, but if the Patriots are playing, I'll pay attention to it. I want them to go to the Super Bowl because it seems to piss everyone else in the country off. Sigil, you're too focused on imagining that the roles were reversed when Democrat administrations have already done every bad thing and the filibuster did but fuck nothing to stop them. It helps to slow things down. That's the whole point of it. I would point out that Republican administrations are no angels either. You probably are intelligent enough to understand that. End the filibuster and we do everything to them that they've done to us. Yeah, but I'm not part of an us. I'm not a Republican or a conservative. I just want less government. Cooking Inferno. Hey, Sticks, you ever watched the music video for Detachable Penis? Fucking great, especially when stoned. I've never seen the video, but I do know the song from King Missile, yeah. Yeah, I brought up football, so now that's all that's going to be in chat probably. It's mandatory that I support the Patriots because I'm in New England, and I don't like the Bills. Just saying. I remember back in the 90s when they got cucked over and over by the Dallas Cowboys, actually. That was a fun time. Was it 94, 96 or something like that? Copium Poppies, mention of Anton. In the name of Clankdom, you are hereby commanded to eat a big glob of Bovrite. I need no further encouragement, my friend. Of course I will. Thank you. People are now paying me to eat Bovrite. This is a totally normal channel. We're normal people here. Yeah. Virgil Walker. Can I get a one-time shout-out for my debut fiction novel in pre-order? Pangaea's Chosen, Rise of the Element Hero. It's a Christian medieval fantasy story. Oh, there might be quite a few people who would like that. Pangaea's Chosen, Rise of the Element Hero by Virgil Walker. So yeah, take a look. Dabu 3. First snow of the season here at Purdue. Boiler up. Yeah, we got a snow yesterday, and it's probably going to start snowing later today and not stop for a couple of days. So, yeah, we might get snowed in, actually. It's going to be fun. Yeah, guess who has to shovel all of the snow? Is it A, my parents, B, the cats, or C, fucking me? No. If you guessed C, you are correct. I don't mind it, though. It's kind of fun. At least the first couple of times it's fun. After that, oh god. Especially if you get a shit ton of it. Copium Poppies. Cooking Inferno's chat reminded me, check out our music video for a song Detached. It's fucking great as well, especially when stoned or while tripping. Yeah, man. Randall Flag sticks, I'm going to keep bugging you about going to Ocean State Job Lot for MREs. Yes, I know, I'll be going there soon. And you're right, the food warmer can expire and not work properly if too old. Also, MREs have made me constipated. Sigilstone, you've been victimized. You're part of us. Sam Hyde is right. The Constitution has become a bludgeon our enemies use to beat us into following rules they don't follow. It's time we stop following rules. Well, give me dictatorship status and I will write a new constitution, then abdicate and go back to gardening. Because, I mean, God, it must be exhausting having power. Some people are into that stuff. I'd rather just have power over myself and my vegetables. Carson, no, Bobby Boucher, you're not playing no fool's ball. Yeah. The problem is that I'm the only person in the world that I would trust with dictatorial power because I'm the only one that I would know would give it up immediately afterwards after reform. That's because not interested. I don't want to have to tell people what to do. I can barely tell myself what to do half the time. What you do is you reform the Constitution and ratify it unilaterally, and then you say bye. You award yourself a small stipend for having done so, then go to your comfy cottage and grow your herbs and live the rest of your life and never talk to anyone again, actually. So yeah, we got the Olympic trans athletes thing. That's going to be interesting. Mommy Cheetah Hop. Well, give me kingly power and I will show you. Copium Poppies. Another mention of Anton. That wasn't enough Bovrite. In the name of Clankdom, you are hereby commanded to eat a big fat glob of Bovrite. Alright, but only one more. Let's scoop. Yeah. It's good. Funny how something with low salt can be salty. I don't know exactly how it works. Sigil. Sorry, Samwise Gamgee, but I'd rather Boromir be given the ring because Gandalf isn't coming to help save us. Yeah, that's a bad idea. CP Simple. Salty. There is salt in it. Yeah, but it's a fairly limited amount. Yeah, technically speaking, there's 0% of your daily sodium actually in Bovrite. I mean, you'll get like 1 or 2% if you ate the entire container, basically. Snakes bleed red. If it's salty, there is salt in it. A marginal amount. I'm assuming that the salty flavor is triggered by the fact that it has yeast extract or something. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Have to get Anton aboard sometime to talk about the properties of Bovrite. Copium poppies. Mention of Anton. In the name of Clankdom, you are hereby commanded to eat a big fat glob of Bovrite and Vegemite at the same time. Only this once, but no more. This is... I'll do it. I'll do it. God. Things like this are never surprising on these streams. Wait till the Christmas season when people get extra wild. Alright, we got some Vegemite. We got some Bovrite. Oh, God. Yeah, that works. Gives it a... I like the aftertaste. How the hell would I describe that? I don't know how to describe the flavor, but it is pretty good. Oscar Gonzalez, have you seen the digital price tags at Walmart? No, actually, I haven't. I never go to Walmart when I can help it. Sigil, I know it's a bad idea, but if my options are Boromir or Grima Wormtongue, I'm voting Gondor. And is Bovrite going to be Clankdom's Frau Blucher? Yeah, I know, horse noises. Mentioned a lot lately, including on the merch stream there. Billy Boy, snort wasabi like Steve-O. Yeah, no. I did snort that Bry Rub, and it made my nose bleed. Fun times, let me tell you. Anyways, I'm going to go offline here. I need to docket some more news. Probably get a snack at some point. I got a couple other things to do today, but mostly I'm going to take, I think, much of the evening off. I wanted to do a bunch of tests in Napoleon Total War. I know I'm nerding out with gaming and stuff, but I was trying to see, like, if you had, like, particularly bizarre matchups. Like, imagine an army that's only cavalry versus an army that's only artillery or something like that, and how funny it would be. And you can set these things up in the single player mode, so, you know, it's some good stuff. Randall Flagg, Sticks, many of us are not okay with Trump restarting nuclear testing. The U.S. blew up several hundred bombs in the southwest U.S. in the 50s and 60s, and ended up polluting the soil and spreading cancer. Yeah, I believe in nuclear testing. I believe the benefits outweigh the risks. Mostly they'll probably just do underground tests or something like that. Personally, I'd like to just blow up some mushroom clouds so that we can have it in like modern high definition with high definition audio and everything else and multiple camera angles. I think that'd be fun. I mean, come on. We're dudes. We like watching things get blown up. Anyways, yeah, it's time to go offline. I'm going to docket some news. I will do some writing later, but I'm going to take a few hours off just to relax. That's about all. Peace out.